In the world of finance, something really fascinating is happening right now. Regulators are in this high-stakes race to get a handle on AI. But here's the twist. The only way they can really keep up is to use AI themselves. It's this classic case of fighting fire with fire. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into today, what this all means for the future of our money.
So at the very heart of all this is what's being called the dual mandate. Think of it like this. Regulators are basically wearing two hats at once. On one hand, they're using AI for their own supervision work. That's SupTech. On the other hand, they're writing the rules for how banks and financial firms use AI. That's RegTech. So yeah, they're using this brand new technology to regulate the very same technology. And that, as you can imagine, creates some really interesting and tricky situations.
All right, so here's what we've got on deck. We'll start by looking at AI as the ultimate referee. Then we'll explore the regulator's new toolkit and the challenge of writing the new rulebook. After that, we'll get into the unseen system risks, and finally, we'll talk about the delicate balancing act that's ahead for everyone.
Okay, let's kick things off with that first part of the dual mandate. How are regulators and banks actually using this stuff? Turns out, it's a total game changer for their toolkit.
For the longest time, financial supervision has been, reactive. Kind of like a ref reviewing a play after the whistle's already blown. But AI? It's like giving that ref 1,000 camera angles all at once, in real time. It lets them spot trouble and step in before a crisis even gets started.
And believe me, the stakes here are incredibly high. Just this year, the average financial firm is spending almost $5.5 million just on compliance. That is a huge amount of pressure, and it's a big reason why everyone, both the banks and the regulators watching them, are jumping on the AI train.
So this really breaks down into two sides of the same coin. For the supervisors, SupTech is all about predicting problems before they blow up. The Central Bank of Brazil, for instance, uses AI to spot weird patterns and flag potential issues early. For the banks themselves, RegTech is about automating these incredibly complex tasks. Or look at Barclays. They use AI to sift through billions of transactions looking for money laundering. There's just no way a human could ever do that. Not at that scale, not at that speed.
Okay, so everybody's using AI. That's clear. But now we get to the really tough part. How do you write the rules for a technology that changes every single day? It's kind of like trying to build a cage for something that can change its shape every second.
And right now, the biggest answer we have to that question is coming from the EU with their AI Act. Now, it's technically already in force, but the real fireworks start in 2026. That's when the rules for high-risk systems really kick in. And people are watching this closely because it's pretty much the global benchmark for how to handle this stuff. So what the EU did is pretty smart. They took a risk-based approach, sorting AI into 4 different levels. At the very top, you've got unacceptable risk stuff. Think government social scoring, and that's just banned, outright, no go. But in finance, things like AI-powered credit scoring get classified as high risk, and that means they face super strict rules about fairness, transparency, and making sure a human is still in the loop.
And let me tell you, these rules have some serious teeth. Get this. The penalty for messing up is up to 7% of a company's global annual turnover. For a big bank, that could mean billions of dollars. This is what makes it so much more than just a European thing. It basically forces companies all over the world to decide if they want to build one compliance system for everybody or risk those massive fines.
But here's the thing. Even with the best rules in the world, there are some pretty big risks that come with handing financial decisions over to an algorithm. These are the kinds of things that keep regulators awake at night. And that brings us right to the famous black box problem. See, the most powerful AIs can spit out an answer like, deny this loan application, but they can't always tell you why. And that's a massive problem, right? For regulators who need to check the work, and for you and me who kind of deserve an explanation. Our trust in the system depends on it.
So, you're left with this really tough trade-off. Do you go for the super complex black box model that's incredibly accurate but you can't explain it? Or do you use a simpler model that's totally transparent, but maybe not quite as good at sniffing out complex risks? It's a constant tug of war between performance and transparency.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theoretical issue. It has very real consequences. That black box can hide and, even worse, amplify biases that already exist in the real world. If you train an AI on historical data that's full of inequality, the AI learns that inequality. And when you look at the data, the consequences are just devastatingly real.
So to fight this, regulators are pushing for a whole suite of solutions.
Things like forcing companies to do bias audits, making sure the teams building these models are diverse, and constantly testing for fairness across different groups. The big idea here is to build fairness right into the code from the very beginning, to make sure these algorithms don't just become a new, super efficient way to discriminate.
Okay, so we've talked about fairness for individuals, but there's an even bigger threat looming: systemic risk. Just picture this: hundreds of different AI trading bots, all trained on similar data, all see the same scary market signal at the exact same millisecond. What do? They all sell at once. And that could trigger a flash crash before any human even has time to blink, let alone figure out what's going on.
So, you've got these incredible benefits on one hand, and these really profound dangers on the other. How on earth does the financial world move forward? Well, it all comes down to a very, very delicate balancing act.
Yeah, there's no silver bullet for this, no single magic answer. What we're seeing is a multi-layered approach to governance. It involves regulators from different countries working together, using regulatory sandboxes to test new tech in a safe space, and, maybe most important of all, a real commitment to keeping a human in the loop for the decisions that truly matter.
But even with all of that, we're stuck in this classic tortoise and the hare situation. You've got AI innovation, the hare, just sprinting ahead like crazy. And then you have regulation, the tortoise, moving carefully and deliberately, but just struggling to keep up. And it's in that gap, the space between the hare and the tortoise, where all sorts of new and unexpected risks can pop up.
And all of this really brings us to the ultimate question, doesn't it? We are building these incredible AI systems to manage our global financial system with a speed and efficiency we've never seen before, but it leaves one huge question unanswered. Who or what is going to manage the AI? How we answer that is going to define not just the next era of finance, but maybe the future of the entire global economy.